If you're a new church drummer, then all of the 6/8 songs you're faced with potentially on a weekly basis, like Great Are You Lord, How He Loves, or Reckless Love, might be tripping you up more than you feel like they should. If you struggle to sound as smooth and natural playing in 6/8 as you do in 4/4, and you feel like an incomplete drummer with just a big hole in your skill, then today's lesson is for you. I get it. When I got started playing drums in church, I was a beginner with only 2 months of lessons under my belt, maybe 3. 3 months, it wasn't much. And I was terrified of playing fills in 6/8 because I felt like I couldn't feel them right, and I was afraid I'd go over the bar line, lose where the one was, and train wreck the band. But the thing is, it doesn't have to be this way. We assume that the key to playing 6/8 well is just learning a bunch of 6/8 grooves and getting good at counting to 6. But the truth is, if you're relying on counting and you're constantly counting to 6, you're probably not going to sound very good, right? The secret to mastering 6/8 really begins before you even sit down at the drum set. Today I'm teaching you 3 steps for getting comfortable with 6/8 so that you're not counting, you're feeling the groove, and you're musically leading the band so that you all sound awesome leading your congregation in worship. You can do this. Hey, welcome to The Non-Glamorous Drummer. I'm so glad you're hanging out today. I help self-taught beginner drummers know what to practice so that you can nail songs, have a blast on the drums, and be the drummer other people want in their band. And hey, if you're a beginner church drummer here today, I have a free gift for you. One of the biggest challenges that you're probably facing is all of the tom grooves in worship songs. There's so many tom grooves, and it's hard to make them feel good and not feel too cluttered. And it can be hard to play them right. Also, worship music as a whole is kind of its own distinct genre and language and set of vocabulary. And so I want to help you not only nail the tom grooves, but also just understand the vocabulary and know what grooves to play and what fills to play as you're getting started playing worship music. So I would love for you to grab my free PDF guide below. It's called 15 Go-To Grooves and Fills for Worship Music, the Church Drummer's Guide to the Essential Tom Patterns, Fills, and Fluently Playing Grooves and Fills in 3/4 as well as 6/8. Of course, today we're talking about 6/8, and this guide has some written 6/8 grooves as well as some 6/8 fills. And so it'll be a really good practice companion next step for you as you go beyond this. Also, if you have questions about 3/4, we covered that a few weeks ago. I'll link that lesson below. And this PDF guide also breaks down 3/4 time as well. And so you can really see and understand those differences between them. But hey, as we dive in today, we do have to ask the question first of what is 6/8 time? You might have known, the songs I mentioned at the top, Great Are You Lord, Reckless Love, How He Loves, Good Father. These are some of the classic 6/8 songs of the last decade or two in worship music. And basically, in a nutshell, you're playing a groove kind of like this. Something along those lines is what we're playing and what we're hearing in a lot of these songs, and usually it's around that tempo. And so when we're playing in 6/8, it's very different from 4/4, and it's also different from 3/4, because in 6/8, the 6 means 6, the 8 means eighth notes, and so it means we have 6 eighth notes in a bar, and those are grouped in 2 groupings of 3. And so you could think of this as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 2 groupings of 3, but we're counting them all together as 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hitting the snare on 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Always the easiest way to understand a basic time signature is when are we hitting the kick, when are we hitting the snare? Well, we're always going to hit the kick on beat 1 because it's rock, and we're going to always have our backbeat on beat 4 in 6/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you could also count this as a slow 2. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. 1, 2, because it's those 2 groupings of 3 notes. And so that's another way to think of it. Compare that to 3/4. I know that if you know math and you're less familiar with music, but you know math well, it makes sense to go, well, 6/8 and 3/4 is the same thing, right? You reduce the fraction of 6/8 and it becomes 3/4. It's not a fraction, and it doesn't work that way in music. 3/4 is 3/4 notes in a measure, which means we're going 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and... That's how a 3/4 groove would feel. And if we were to count all of those eighth notes and count to 6 in the 3/4 context, we'd be hitting the snare on 5. So I hope I'm not overcomplicating things at all. This is actually how I would think of it as a kid when I was first, playing piano before I even played drums, trying to understand the differences. When you're playing in 6/8, you're counting to 6 and you're hitting the snare on beat 4. When you're playing in 3/4, you could also count to 6, but hit the snare on beat 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which converts to a slow 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. That's our 3/4 notes. Versus 6/8, remember we're counting to 6, but hitting on beat 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 6/8 has this round feel because we have these two groupings of 3 eighth notes. Boom, 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 bop, boom, boom. So, hope that makes sense. I hope that's clear. Obviously, 4/4 we know well, where we're just counting to 4 and we're hitting the snare on 2 and 4. I think another reason why 6/8 and 3/4 can be challenging is because most method books, not even, I don't think realistic rock, I've got realistic rock here, was the biggest thing I worked through in high school. I don't think there's a section on 6/8 grooves. I don't think there's anything on 3/4 grooves. And so a lot of times what can happen is you get into playing worship music and it's like, wait a second, we got all this 6/8 stuff. That wasn't in my method book. I never learned 6/8 unless you happen to play some 6/8 ballads from, the 70s and 80s. And there certainly are some 6/8 songs out there. They're just much fewer than 4/4. It's easy to feel very unfamiliar with it. So let's get into the meat here and get into some more detail about how we can feel better about 6/8 and feel confident and be able to play fills in 6/8. So step number 1, learn how to count and feel 6/8 in your head. So if you want to learn something well, if you want to master something, then you need to be able to count it. You need to know what it looks like on paper, what it sounds like. You need to be able to drum speak it and say like boom, chun, chun, ga, chun, chun, like drum speak it like that. Doesn't have to be good beatboxing. I can't beatbox well. It doesn't matter. Be able to drum speak it, be able to play it in your head, and then physically play it. If you can do all those things, basically get it going in your head because you see it, you know what it sounds like, you know what it looks like, you know how to count it, then everything becomes a lot easier. Now, I know back in the intro I said, if you're counting in 6/8, you're not going to sound good, and that's true. If you're sitting here going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you're probably not going to sound very good because that's not how we should be playing the drums. We should not be playing like a metronome. We should not be playing like a robot. We should be playing melodically. And in order to play melodically, we have to feel and not just count. So that's the important thing here. And I hope that actually already, just by breaking down how 6/8 time goes, I hope you're able to begin feeling it as that round kick on 1, snare on 4. If you can count that and feel that in your head, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, then you're already halfway there. Step number 2, play the basic 6/8 money beat over and over. So it's good to actually get on the kit and actually play this stuff and know how it feels. When we get to step 3, I think that's really the big thing here, big piece of the puzzle. But play the 6/8 money beat over and over again. That just means kick on 1, snare on 4, right hand, eighth notes. Now, the next obvious question is, well, what if we want to deviate from the money beat? Maybe you've practiced a whole bunch of 4/4 grooves and you know how to get more syncopated on the kick drum. You've got this whole mental vocabulary of 4/4 grooves, but 6/8, you're like, I don't know, like what else can I do here? Well, a really good first thing is to add a kick drum on the and of 2. So remember, we're counting to 6, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. If we add in those ands, if we're counting the ands, which are the 16th notes in this case, it's pretty quick. But if we think about it, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. See if you can get that rhythm in your head. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, 6. Boom, boom. Count that out, get that in your head. Count along with me. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Boom, 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 boom. Just that little trick alone of creating that rhythm of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then we can add it again. We can go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and add an and a 5. So we're creating this big boom, boom, boom. Does this make sense? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Now, those of you more advanced players, maybe you're recognizing that this is actually a familiar polyrhythm. This is the most basic polyrhythm there is, the 3/2. The 3/2 polyrhythm, I like to call it the Carol of the Bells polyrhythm, because if you can hear Carol of the Bells in your head, play that on the rims. Right, both, I have to think about this, both, right, left, right, both, right, left, right, both, right, left, right. If you stick it that way, bum, 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 then if you start examining what each hand is actually playing, your right hand is playing 3 notes for every 2 notes that your left hand plays. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, You can very quickly get into syncopated tom groove territory just with that polyrhythm there when you're playing in 6/8. And so I think this is my opinion, the secret to really playing musically in 6/8 is being able to do that, where you're not just stuck on the money beat, but you're also able to deviate into what could also be called in music theory terms a hemiola, where it's kind of like 2 time signatures layered on top of each other. I've played a lot of songs before where we might be in 6/8 or 12/8, but then there's like another feel imposed on top of that. And what's interesting, and again, we're not trying to overcomplicate things, I hope that's simple enough actually, of just if you can play that 3/2, then you can reach over and hit the snare and you can go. And suddenly you know how to play a syncopated tom build in 6/8. But anyways, there's a lot of grooves where you might play something like. And what's interesting, we're counting to 6 right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But it actually becomes a slow 4 down here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can hear the relationship here. So if we go 6/8, I'm going to start out in 6/8, and then I'm going to like morph the right hand pattern into more of a 4/4 feel, but like a loose shuffled 4/4 feel. Could you hear the relationship there? How we could change our timekeeping and it completely changes the feel and how we're perceiving the time because of that whole syncopation thing. And it all comes back to that 3/2 polyrhythm. So I hope none of that is too in the weeds, because I do think that 3/2 is an important thing to know for playing 6/8 well and not feeling like you're stuck in a box. And so if you can practice doing that, remember it all starts with just that kick pattern of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and. So the and of 2, the and of 5. Boom, 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 boom. And then you can start spicing it up in all the usual 4/4 ways, but now you kind of have this framework for how to expand what you're doing. So you can obviously do a lot with that. Also, a quick note on fills. When you're doing a fill in 6/8, and so in 4/4, we might play a beat 4 fill, where we do something like this. We might put a simple fill on beat 4, and that's because we can put 4/16 notes there on beat 4. Got, 4 E and up. If we're in 6/8, if we're going to do 4/16 notes, we have to start on beat 5, right? 5 and 6 and. Those are our 4/16 notes at the end of a 6/8 measure. So if we're playing in 6/8, we could hit our backbeat on beat 4, and then we could start a 4-note fill on beat 5. And so that's a great place to start. Just practice hitting your backbeat on 4 and then immediately going to a right, left fill that starts on beat 5. And again, so back to what we first talked about, be able to count that, hear that, feel that in your head before you actually play it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and that might be your fill. 4, 5, and 6, and 1, 2, 3, ba, 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 boom, 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 bra, da, do, do, do. Now imagine yourself playing it. 1, 2, making sure I'm counting 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 1, boom, boom. And just practice doing that, and then you'll realize, you know what, it's not that different from 4/4. I can do this. And of course, definitely grab that 15 go-to grooves and fills for worship music guide, because in there are some 6/8 grooves and some 6/8 fills, so you can get even better at playing some of these specific things. But I strongly encourage you to improvise with the 3/2 polyrhythm and just practice doing that, because that's going to really free you to do a lot of cool stuff. All right, so if you watched the 3/4 lesson a few weeks back, then you might have caught on to my foreshadowing at this point, and you know what our step 3 is going to be. Step 3, the biggest secret to 6/8 mastery: listen to a bunch of 6/8 songs. Because like we've been saying, this is something you have to feel and not just count. You can first learn it by counting, and I want you to do that. Remember, counting is critical to learning something well and really knowing what you're doing, being aware of what you're doing. But then you just got to feel it. You can't be counting. When you're playing on Sunday morning, you can't be going, all right, I got to remember to start that fill on beat 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And odds are it's going to be sloppy. You can't count. You got to feel. And that's why you play this stuff over and over again. But most importantly, you listen to a bunch of 6/8 songs. If you've been playing in church for more than a couple weeks, I'm sure you've played one of these. If you've been going to church for more than a couple weeks, you've probably heard a bunch of these. But these are just some of the top 6/8 song recommendations from myself. Great Are You, Lord by All Sons and Daughters. How He Loves by John Mark McMillan. Made popular by David Crowder Band back around the time I think I was in high school. Good Good Father by Pat Barrett. There's also the Chris Tomlin version. There's a lot of versions of it. Reckless Love, Corey Asbury. There's also the Passion version. There's so many different recordings. Everybody's got their arrangement, but these are the original artists as far as I know. Throne Room Song by Charity Gale. It's a really epic one. Graves into Gardens, Elevation, and I Trust in God, Elevation. Those two Elevation ones are interesting because they're a very slow 6/8 that has a swung feel to it. Because if you go really slow and you kind of swing it like this, that's still 6/8. 1, 2, 3, 4. We just got more space between each beat, so we can swing it. We can make it feel real bluesy. And so Graves into Gardens feels like that. It's a really slow kind of bluesy feel. I Trust in God is especially bluesy, where with that song, the key is just relaxing. And so like with any feel like that, listen to the song a bunch. Get the melody in your head, be able to sing it, and then practice just feeling it out. You know, one of the best things that you can ever practice is sitting down at the kit, having a song playing in your head. So I Trust in God, for example, that one, it's playing in my head right now. Great song, go check it out if you haven't. We've played it a couple times at church recently. If you can hear it in your head, just hear that melody in your head and groove along to it. No recording, the song's not playing in your ears. You're just playing it back and you're saying like, okay, what can I play that feels right according to what I'm hearing in my head? There's really no rules. It's kind of just jamming along. Practice jamming along to the song in your head. Seriously, it's one of the best things you can do because you're really listening and you're paying attention to how you feel. And you're also reinforcing your memory of the song, because the biggest thing to pay attention to when you learn a song for church is the melody. Of course, you've got to learn your drum parts. Pay attention to those too. The whole big picture of the dynamics and all the parts, that's important. But when it comes down to it, the biggest thing you should be paying attention to in the moment as you're playing is the melody. That's where all the answers are. That's what's informing your kick drum pattern most of the time. And the melody will not lead you astray. If you follow the melody and you play according to the melody, you're always going to sound awesome. So, my hope is that you'll no longer be scared of songs that are in 6. My hope is that your worship band will sound better now playing in 6 because you know how to lead them. You're feeling more comfortable and confident, and your fills are more solid, and your fills lead the band and help them play more tightly. And so you're now a more versatile drummer with complete skill. And those are the things I hope are going to happen as you start practicing this, as you start digging more into 6/8 songs. But hey, let me know in the comments, what unanswered questions do you have at this point about playing in 6/8 in church? I'd love to create more content along these lines to help you out some more. As I keep saying, for any of you who watch all the way to the end of these videos, I want you to comment. I want you to let me know other questions or struggles you have, because I'm going through usually every Monday after I post a video, I go back and I read through the comments and I copy and paste questions and suggestions and ideas. So know that you are heard. I don't have time to reply to every comment, but know that I hear you, and I'm copying and pasting your stuff over to my board where I'm planning future content. And so I want to make sure I can provide you with as much value on this topic as possible. I want to help out church drummers. I've been one for half of my life. I've been a church drummer for half of my life, playing every Sunday. And so I know how the struggles are. I know how it feels when you're a beginner, and I want to help you out as much as you can so you're as empowered as possible. Speaking of, be sure to grab the PDF e-guide, 15 go-to grooves and fills for worship music, the church drummer's guide to the essential tom patterns, fills, and fluently playing grooves and fills in 6/8 and 3/4 time. Grab that. That'll help you out a bunch. There's play-along recordings and all the notation there. So, hey, this has been a lot of fun. I'll see you on the next lesson. Stay non-glamorous, and know that, as always, you can do this.